Welcome back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. Thanks to everybody who came out for our 200th episode and everybody who's made the Russo-Souhan Show such a success. We appreciate it. Just wanted to give you an update on our next planned live shows at Tin Shed Tavern in Savage. We are planning on doing Tuesday, July 2nd. That is Tuesday, July 2nd at 7 p.m. and Wednesday, July 31st at 7 p.m. I just want to make sure everybody got those dates. Here's the show, and thanks again to everybody. As you might have heard, this is the 200th Russo-Souhan Hockey Show, part of the TalkNorth.com podcast network. And
this might be our largest crowd, too.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for coming out. It's a huge crowd. Thank you for listening all this time. Thank you for supporting Michael. Thank you for supporting the network. We really do appreciate it. And I just want to point out that we started this thing with just me and Michael and that little board over there and Brandon running the whole operation and 2 stalkers. And we have grown. Now it's me.
Who are the stalkers?
It's Michael. It's Brandon. It's a little board.
Right?
And we're up to 3 or 4 stalkers. We have grown. We've grown exponentially since we started this show.
Remember the times that we used to do it in your apartment building when you lived on above the Whole Foods, and it was like that little room, and it was super hot, and it was pretty funny.
That wasn't your anxiety? Yeah. You actually talking about temperature?
It was ridiculous hot.
Of course, you wore long-sleeve shirts when it's 100 degrees out, and slacks, and dark socks.
The one that
this is what he sunbathes in, by the way.
This is the U.S. Bank. Remember when you lived by there too, and we'd be doing a podcast in that place, and all of a sudden the apartment building would be giving a tour of the party room, and just in the middle of the podcast, just start walking in. Yeah, very professional.
Yeah, well, it's how we roll. And by the way, I referenced stalkers. That was my attempt to get you to think about Russo slacks.
Oh, yeah.
And grown.
I thought you
and
meant
you didn't
Vicky.
do it. No, Vicky's not a stalker. Vicky's a support. Vicky comes out to the shows. Russo slacks really is a stalker. He never shows up.
I know.
He just sends strange photoshops of us.
Yeah, that's
They're
exactly
accurate
true.
photoshops.
It is humbling that everybody listens. I wouldn't do it.
Well, I don't listen to the show.
Hey, next time you try to sell some ads, you should put that out. You should give that as a little snippet of hey, advertise with us. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't listen to this.
I wouldn't listen to this.
No. So
Brandon has to edit it. So Brandon's the only person we're actually sure actually listens to the show.
And that's
he kind of has
accurate.
to. Because he has to go through, and he basically has 2 jobs on this show. He has to go through and take out all Russo's cussing, and then he has to go out and 5 minutes after every show, Russo will be driving home, and he'll pull over and he'll call Brandon and say, listen, take out all the stuff I said about this and all the stuff I said about this.
Remember when my mother ripped a certain player on the podcast?
Yes,
and
I do remember that.
I called Brandon. I'm like, you got to get that out of there. It was just, yeah.
Remember when
he still plays for the Wild, too.
Remember when I teased your mother and you made us take that out of the show?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
He doesn't remember that one.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
all right, let me do some bookkeeping here, and we'll get to some actual hockey talk. Once again, thank you to everybody for coming out. Big crowd here. We are at the Tin Shed in Savage. I actually said that properly for once, which is not easy for me. And Brian, who runs Tin Shed, is going to give away 6 pairs of tickets for Wild games this winter. It's a really generous thing. It's a really cool thing. Again, you guys, everybody's here already knows the deal. You put your name in the fishbowl to my
good
right
games
up here.
too. Look at that.
Yeah,
you got Connor McDavid and the Oilers, Stanley Cup champion Blues. Nino Niederreiter coming back to Carolina for the first time. Ottawa. Chuck Fletcher and the Philadelphia Flyers, and Jason Zucker and the Calgary Flames.
Beautiful.
It took a while to get to the joke.
So we are doing.
Did you give the Tony? Tell him the Tony.
I'm about to get to the Tony Hoaglund thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is our longtime friend and sponsor, Tony Hoaglund, Hoaglund, as I always say. He runs State Farm Insurance out of Champlin, Minnesota. Michael and I both get our insurance through Tony. He is giving away 2 tickets to the 3M Open, which is and the Friday edition of the 3M Open, which is going to be a great golf tournament. Hollis Kavner's done a great job putting that thing together. You need to. So if you want to put your name and personal information and just write 3M and put it in the fishbowl to my left, we will choose a winner for that at the end. The only catch there is you have to be able to go pick it up at Tony's office to do so.
And buy some insurance.
And buy life insurance, no problem. But no, actually no strings attached. Tony's just a good dude, and we appreciate him doing that. He's been great for the network as well. Thanks. So once again, thanks to Tin Shed. We're down here in Savage. GPS said it's not that hard to get here. 12250 Zinran Avenue. Their phone number is 952-736-2444. But again, everybody uses GPS. You know how to get here. They always have games on the big screens. This is a massive room that you people have filled up tonight. They have video games. They have good food. They have drink specials. They have happy hours, lunch deals. Check them out. We are tentatively planning. Always follow us on Twitter for this. We're tentatively planning our next 2 live shows here at Tin Shed for July 3rd. And July 31st. We're both doing some traveling next month, so it's beginning of the month and the end of the month. July 3rd and July 31st at 7 p.m. But check our social media accounts to double-check that before you come out. We appreciate that. Thanks to our other sponsors, Twill and the Dining Galleria, Fixology Repair. John Hedges is here tonight. We'll tell you about some of his specials, Tony Hoaglund, and Bite Squad. All right, so let's start
and
here.
Tin Shed.
Wait, pardon me?
And Tin Shed.
I said Tin Shed. One of the things I picked up on early in our work here together, Michael, is that you might have worked in Florida for a while.
Yeah. Hey, do you guys remember our first show? Like, where was that? Like, it wasn't any of the ones that we did with the old network, right? So this is 200 of just us independent with Brandon.
Yes. These are the networks that
when was our first show? Like, where was it?
Right, Brandon has been in therapy blocking that out. Why would you ask him that? I think it was at Tom Reed's.
You think? No, we had
did we do shows before we went to Tom Reed's?
I don't know. Man, that's a lot of freaking shows.
It's a lot of shows.
At least they've won a couple cups since we started. All right, so
the reason I bring up Florida, tell me your favorite Robert Luongo stories.
Roberto is first of all.
Yeah,
one of my favorite Robert Luongo stories is when there was a certain national play-by-play guy that used to call him Robert Luongo on ESPN. And I finally wrote him on the bottom. I used to write this 80-inch Sunday column for the Sun Sentinel. You remember those columns at that newspaper. I mean, they were just massive. That was back when the Sun Sentinel was just a top 10 sports section of the country.
I always read the first 5 inches of your columns.
Yeah. And, sorry, player's dad. Anytime a player's dad texts you, it's always information. Just got to put that down. Competition. So on the bottom inch of my 80-inch column, I said, how many times does everybody say hi to Joe and Jordan? That's Joe over there. It was his birthday yesterday. Everybody wish him a happy birthday.
The other cool thing about tonight is we have people wearing the old school T-shirts, including Clyde. Vicky's wearing the newer T-shirt. Clyde's wearing the older version of the T-shirt, which is, it's hilarious. It's got Russo laying on the couch, going through therapy with me, trying to help him out, and obviously it hasn't helped much. And of course, those are from one of our stalkers, Russo's Filter, with the initials LTFP.
Yeah, Filter. He did. Remember, he used to do the Russo Ranch shirt too. The Read the Effin' Blog shirts. So the bottom inch of this Sunday column, I said, basically how many NHL records and Vezina candidacies this guy have to be nominated for or set by the time that this national play-by-play guy that's very well respected, learns that his name is Roberto and not Robert. And first thing Sunday morning, I got a call from him. And it was somebody I really respected a ton, so I have always felt bad about that. So when you said Robert, that just clicked in my head. So thank you. A little traumatizing.
I'm here for that.
Even 20 years later. The biggest thing, and I wrote about it today in The Athletic, theathletic.com, is that...
By the way, our other giveaways, Russo is trying to clear out his attic, so he brought all the crap he can't give away anyplace else, and he wants you to take it home so he doesn't have to carry it around anymore. Yeah. Also, we have my last of this batch of T-shirts. It's a large. We'll give it away to somebody later. We'll figure it out.
And then I brought a bunch of hockey books. So
Again, trying to get rid of everything in his attic. It's all right there.
If you have a question, a live question, come up, grab a book. Or just rummage through it when the show is over. But the one thing is, I still remember like it was yesterday, and I remember where I was sitting, and I was talking to Mark Parrish. I was driving down here because I was the one lucky enough. This is pre-internet. I was one lucky enough to call Robert Parrish. Mark Parrish up from Calgary in late June 2000 to tell him he was traded from the Panthers, which is, I love delivering news like that. And but I still remember, where I was sitting in the risers at the Saddle Dome, 2000 draft, when Gary Bettman steps up to the podium. No Twitter, so it's genuine, like it used to be at the draft. When Gary Bettman used to go up and say, "I have a trade, and we have a trade to announce," the gasp in the crowd, the anticipation, it was so cool pre-Twitter, and then we ruined it with Twitter. But the sound of the audible, like, what the F just happened here when Mike Milbury traded Roberto Luongo and Ole Jokinen to the Panthers for Mark Parrish and Ola Kavasha. It's something I'll never forget. It was unbelievable. I know for a fact that I led my story of Roberto Luongo because, again, I don't want to rip Panther fans, but it was even me as a beat writer. You didn't as highly acclaimed as Roberto Luongo was when he was drafted in '97. In Florida, they didn't know that this guy was awesome or this guy had a chance to be in what he's going to be, a Hall of Fame goaltender. They just knew they traded Mark Parrish away, who had scored 50 goals his first 2 years with the Panthers, which was really funny because when the Panthers acquired Mark Parrish 2 years earlier, it was for fan favorite Tom Fitzgerald. Almost GM of the Wild, by the way. It was for fan favorite Tom Fitzgerald, and they were pissed at that trade. So it always takes a while for that fan base to realize, all right, maybe we got something here. But that sound just showed, I think, everybody in South Florida that, wow, they just traded for an absolute stud goalie. And ever since John Van Beesbroek, they hadn't found that. And then getting to know Roberto over the years, playing poker with him a couple times. He's one of the funniest human beings ever, to the point that he had that Twitter account, Strombone1, and nobody knew it was him for a long time until finally everybody suddenly realized, by going through his followers and all this, there was basically almost an investigation by just some random person that realized that Strombone1 was Roberto Luongo. And probably. But his first ever shutout with the Panthers was here in this building. It was Game 6 of the 2000-2001 season. We came in from Colorado, and I stayed at the Airport Marriott, and I remember just going to this game, and they hadn't won in 5 games, winless in 5, and Luongo has a 0-0 tie against Jamie McLennan. And who knew, but then, year 2000, I'd be eventually covering this is going to be my 15th year covering the Wild coming up. But we go into the locker room after the game, and Roberto is just waiting for us, and he deadpans right away. We basically are asking him, like, you guys don't have a win yet. You just, got a point, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yeah, who would have ever thought that I'd get my first shutout before my first win with the Panthers? And it just was like one of those lines that, one, showed me how intelligent he was, but two, it was like one of those things, honestly, going down I never even thought of. Like, here it's his first 6 games with the Panthers, future Hall of Famer, and he hadn't even had a victory yet after that gigantic trade only a couple months earlier. And then obviously the rest is history. He broke the NHL record for saves and shots against the first couple years, which during one of his contract years, Rick Dudley absolutely exploded on the off-ice officials once because in Florida, you could shoot 7 feet wide and they're going to give you a shot. So he was basically saying that the numbers were fudged. Another time, 2003 waiver draft. There used to be something called the waiver draft in the NHL where they basically would do a draft over the phone, and you could not lose. It was like the rules prevented the absoluteness that you could lose 2 goalies in the waiver draft. And, of course, the Florida Panthers, the most dysfunctional team in history, loses 2 goalies in the waiver draft. Like, it's something that it's physically, like, the rules are against, and they wound up messing up to a point that they lost both goalies. They lost Yanni Herme and maybe Steve Valaket or somebody. You got to look it up. 2003 waiver draft, if somebody can Google that real quick. So we walk in the locker room, and we're ready just to crush management. And Luongo's alone sitting in his stall, and he looks at David J. Neal and me, and he goes, last man standing. And he's just wearing a towel. And honestly, it was the funniest thing that I think I've ever seen. And then a couple other Roberto Luongo things I wrote about today. I mean, they had this thing in Florida called Luongo's Legion. And these fans, in South Florida, it's a weird fan base because in the lower bowl, it is the super rich, Boca Raton,